Thank you for joining us again and welcome back to our channel. If you are joining for the first time, we always appreciate your time. Folks, I'm back. I'm back now for the good because I took 5 days off for a short vacation just to re-energize us always. Listen, this is not easy business. Geostrategic discussions are always tough. If someone tells you it's easy, tell them they are not telling you the truth. With millions of views, over 50,000 subscribers, and over 1,000 videos from the geostrategic discussion on Africa's own engagement globally, I think we needed to take some break time and time again. But we are back now. We are really back, and this time around, we're going to say it the way it is from the Africa's own strategic point of view. Again, the continent of Africa is going through amazing transformation. Whether you like it or not, whether it's the United Nations, across the geostrategic engagement, Russian-Ukrainian war, Africa's own position, the Sahel is changing and transforming so far. Africa has gotten the message that its geopolitical partners in the global north may not provide them the strategic cover that they need. For that reason, they are moving so fast and making some choices which are not popular. That's the reason why we continue to say that African nations have gotten the message and they are moving swiftly. But that aside, today I want to talk about something that has driven me not confused, but again, the relationship between the countries across the region and the United States of America. The US's administration has transformed, has gone rogue in a number of areas from its strategic Africa's own relationship. In this case, I'm talking about why the United States of America continue to fold the arms of African nations to continue to allow them to receive immigrants. Immigrants, some will say, are criminals. People that the United States of America has vetted to not being able to stay in its own country, and they are shipping them to the continent of Africa. First, the country of South Sudan was put under tremendous pressure. It caved. We looked at Eswatini, put under incredible pressure. Eswatini caved. Now, the great nation of the country of the continent of Africa, Rwanda. I know what you may think. Whatever you think about the country of Rwanda, I consider it a great African renaissance. Whatever you think, that's not what we are talking about here. Today, we are talking why this great African nation is so close to the United States of America. Listen, folks, I'm going to break it down. I have a professor, an expert in political science, who's going to join me here to help me understand, break it down to you from the collaborative point of view, from the benefit aspect, but more importantly, thanks to CGTN Africa, who continue to do an incredible job. But wait again, the United States of America, despite Rwanda's own previous history on the reason why Rwanda, once a country that was torn as a result, talking about the genocide that happened in that African nation, it has some history of thinking about what being an immigrant could be. Fair enough. However, the United States of America's recent administration is going so close with the country of Rwanda in a whole lot of areas, talking about the current challenges that the country of the Democratic Republic of the Congo and Rwanda has at the moment. Again, the United States has claimed to an extent that it's bringing some element of peace. We will be looking at how the implementation will go. But let's go back to the main strategic discussion today. Why the country of Rwanda at the moment has accepted to take 250 migrants coming from the United States of America. So what's going on? Experts are saying that there must be a quid pro quo here. However, Rwanda is demonstrating again over and over that it is one of those nations, the continent of Africa, that understand immigrants' own challenges like no other nation. But first, let's roll this clip from CGTN Africa with professor and expert in the field with regards to strategic partnership, who can break it down for us and give us an insight. Then we will go into more analysis with regards to the reason why Rwanda may be caught in a crossroad, but not just South Sudan and Eswatini, and why African countries must pay attention with this new United States of America administration. Let's roll this clip.
Joining us now, Professor David Monda from the Political Science Department, City University of New York. Today he's joining us via Zoom from Nairobi here in Kenya. Thank you very much, Professor Monda, for joining us. Rwanda is set to receive up to 250 deportees from the U.S. What do you make of this deal?
I think it's a very problematic deal from a legal standpoint, from the principle of non-refoulement of these detainees. The idea that if you're going to send these migrants or deportees to second or third countries, they must be safe. The deportees need to have undergone due process, and the conditions in that country must be secure so that the deportees have their human rights observed. I think also the terms of the deal are also very nefarious. As you'd mentioned earlier, Rwanda is getting a grant from the US. We don't know how much that will be. So is this a quid pro quo between Rwanda and the US in terms of deal making? But I think the third element is the legal due process question. This deal goes against international conventions and international law.
Experts say that this is a challenging period in the continent of Africa as the reason why Rwanda moved ahead to make this very important decision as to accept these immigrants from the United States of America. The expert in the country of Rwanda also said that they are going to vet each of these individuals despite the fact that the cases are different. Some are immigrants, some are people that have been condemned in regards to their own behavior in the United States of America. But Rwanda is saying that they are going to handle this situation like never before seen. Let's roll this clip from CGTN Africa.
Well, let's bring in our correspondent, Ethan Tashobia. He's joining us live from Kigali in Rwanda. Ethan, so what's the latest update on the migrants deal between Rwanda and the US, and why has Rwanda agreed to this deal?
Beatrice, I think one of the most surprising elements in this new development is the fact that the deal was signed in June, earlier, a few months ago, weeks ago rather. That's what has surprised most of the analysts here that I spoke to earlier. What we know is that the vetting is already ongoing for the 10 first individuals that will be sent to Rwanda by the US authorities. If that goes on and the vetting is successful, they should be coming to Rwanda in the next few weeks, according to the officials we spoke to earlier today. Now, what remains to be seen is if there will be the next batch of these immigrants will be coming, that's the 240, or they will be coming in phases, and that's not something that they're sure about at this particular moment. But what we're sure of, and what we've been told, they did not specify the dates, but they are sure that the first group of 10 individuals that are being vetted currently will be coming in the next weeks. That's what the officials mentioned to us earlier on.
But a big question experts are asking here is that why should Rwanda? Is it a quick pro quo? The deal is not clear. It's not pretty clear, you know. Of course, I'm not going to go deeper into what's actually happened, what the signatories and what is happening. That's not part of my insight. But part of my insight is the collaborative relationship on why the United States of America is singling out these small nations across the continent of Africa, in this case talking about these migrant deals that we have seen. Of course, Eswatini and also the country of South Sudan and Rwanda will benefit to an extent in more financial terms. However, other experts question the reason why this deal is not opened, it's not clear where the United States of America stands, and more importantly, what this African nation will be gaining. But again, the professor saw it from a strategic point of view that Rwanda is not as naive as you think. Let's play this clip.
So previous migrants sent to African countries, South Sudan and Eswatini, they were migrants with convictions, criminal convictions. But the deal with Rwanda stipulates that the country still has room to vet and approve the deportees. So what does this really mean in terms of leverage for Rwanda?
I think that's a joke, to be quite honest. If the U.S. cannot vet, if the U.S. has vetted these migrants to be dangerous criminals, I think Rwanda accepting this deal, it really appears like Rwanda is accepting to be a dumping ground for the enfant terrible, the non-wanted dumping ground for migrants that the U.S. doesn't want. It's not a good image for Rwanda, and it's not a good image for Africa more broadly. But we also need to remember that, as you'd mentioned, Eswatini and South Sudan were also pressured to accept these migrants. So we see a very asymmetrical relationship where the US appears to be picking small and weak countries like Rwanda, Eswatini, and South Sudan, and it creates a very asymmetrical system of leverage. It's an unfair power situation where the US can actually demand that these countries accept these deals. And in the case of Rwanda, let's not forget the US and Rwanda are cooperating on mineral extraction in the DRC. So because of the unclear situation of this particular deal, there's a lot of other wider questions about the relationship between the US, Rwanda, these deportees, and some of the issues that have been going on in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda.
We are at a period where African nations are waking up like never before seen, and they are asking questions. But the United States of America's own collaboration and partnership with the continent of Africa at the moment, as we've seen, the US has deployed a strategy of divide and rule. The recent meeting at the White House with a number of African leaders from Senegal, looking at Gabon, when the Gabonese president embarrassed himself globally and more importantly in the continent of Africa as a result of his own behavior, his perception of the United States of America. More importantly, what I'm saying here is that with a number of countries, over 50 nations across the continent of Africa, selecting a few leaders to come to the White House, the question here is, was it as a result of asking them to take immigrants? Because that conversation surfaced at that White House meeting. Experts said that. More importantly, why is the United States of America singling out a few countries to come to the United States and allowing major players across the region like Egypt, South Africa? We're seeing a number of other countries, Ghana and the rest, Tanzania, big players, Kenya and the rest. So this divide and rule option maybe is working for the United States of America so far. But again, experts question this particular collaboration as the reason why the United States of America is using leverage which African countries should not accept to an extent. Let's play this clip.
So you've mentioned that what Rwanda is likely to get out of such a deal, but clarify for us, what do you think a nation like Rwanda will get out of such a deal, and how does this benefit Rwanda even in terms of its international relations?
I think for one, in terms of Rwanda's international relations, Rwanda is a small landlocked country. So by Rwanda stepping in front of the other 55 African countries and accepting these migrants, it's a question of prestige and status for Rwanda. Rwanda seems to be punching way above its weight. I think also it really creates a situation of a quid pro quo, as I'd mentioned earlier, where Rwanda seems to be getting material benefits. Essentially, it's being paid to accept, the rejects from the United States. So the Kagame administration benefits handsomely in relation to that. I think the third element also is that Rwanda would tend to benefit by balancing, using this good relationship with the Trump administration to reduce criticism against Rwanda's notorious human rights violations on human rights activists and on many of its citizens. So the US would not criticize Rwanda as harshly as it would if Rwanda had rejected these migrants on human rights concerns. So Rwanda is benefiting on a whole range of elements: economic, legal, and also international diplomacy.
Hopefully I've informed you as to the reason why the United States of America's behavior and approach in the continent of Africa, considering the current administration under Mr. Donald Trump, is questionable. It will be questionable today, tomorrow, and from the strategic historical formation. It is important for African nations to know that the geopolitical environment has changed and they too must move faster and continue to build their collaboration with other partners that provide alternatives.
And Ethan, what exactly do we know about the status of these migrants that are being sent to Rwanda?
So what we know at this moment is that these are the people whose asylum claims were rejected by the US, and the US authorities decided to send them to the third receiving country, which is Rwanda at this particular moment. We also know that some of them are convicted criminals with varying cases, of course. But what we do not know is the magnitude of the cases with which they were convicted on. And that's actually some of the things that have raised concerns here among analysts, or why Rwanda is willing to receive convicted criminals. We spoke to some officials, especially on the opposition and the analysts, and saying that Rwanda should not be receiving such individuals because they may pose a threat to the Rwandan security and safety. But those concerns were also addressed, saying that Rwanda will make sure that they vet each individual case by case and make sure that the person who will be received in Rwanda is safe to be received, rehabilitated and reintegrated into the Rwandan community.
And Rwanda has made other migrant deals before, most recently with the United Kingdom. Tell us about some of these and their current status in Rwanda.
Rwanda in general hosts over 100,000 migrants and asylum seekers from different countries, from the neighboring DRC, from Burundi, from as far as Afghanistan and Israel, as well as people who, there was a deal that fell apart, the 2022 deal with the UK. Rwanda has intentionally put itself forward to receive people who are in need of asylum and refugees, because the authorities here believe that Rwandans fully understand the plight and the suffering of the migrants and asylum seekers due to the history of this nation, where most people from as far as 1959 were Rwandans were forced to flee the country and went to different parts of the world. So the current authorities believe that offering such asylum and asylum to those who are in need is sort of offering a pathway to those, decent pathway to those that are in need of asylum and refugee and resettlement.
I want to thank you for watching. I will be looking forward to meeting you soon in our next episode. Smash the like button. Like I said, we are back full time and we're going to make sure that you continue to see our strategic analysis. For now, have a good day. Bye-bye.